said, my name is Anders. The people who have been here before will probably hear some things technical one more time. But first of all, we will talk a little bit about HEGEL, a few minutes. Then we will talk about our new amplifiers, how we got there, why we think it's very good, and some of the new features and technologies we think will be more and more important and that we are working really hard on. Finally, we will do some tweaking and playing with a computer and show you things that we do not sell. But if anybody use computer as a high-end source,
yeah. Yes.
Then you will have tried some of these tricks, but that in the end is just for fun. Because tweaking a computer is very cheap. It does not necessarily, at least, cost a lot of money, but you can do big things just by doing it right. We will test a few things. I will not claim that one is better than the other. It will be up to you to choose. And we will see. Now, the system that is on right now is my MacBook playing music from Tidal, the streaming service. And it's connected with a USB cable to our smallest integrated amp, the H80. And that is connected to a pair of Graham audio, BBC. It's difficult to call them monitors, but it's BBC loudspeakers, very loud speakers. It's the first time in my life I hear them. I just came in on a flight and there was a lot of traffic. So I haven't had sound check other than hearing one or two songs, and it sounded very good. So if you think you come to a demo and it's set up and all arranged and I have picked the right, cherry-picked the songs that will show the massive difference between all the things, this is not one of those. But we'll try to play music that I like, and I think it's good, and we play it for a reason. Now, HEGEL, very shortly, started in 1988. Yeah. Our founder, who is still the owner of the company, owns 100% of HEGEL. The bank doesn't own anything, and no investors own anything. He was studying for a degree in microelectronics in 1988 at the university in Norway. And his study was not about hi-fi at all. Actually, he wasn't very interested in hi-fi. He liked electronics, but most of all, he played in a band, and it was called the HEGEL Band. And they played Thin Lizzy cover songs, and they still do. They have 2 concerts in his hometown every year. But he played in this band as they studied. And at this big university, which is a technology university space, they have a live stage with a bar, and all the bands play there, and all the students come to listen every Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and probably an occasional Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And the amplifiers broke. And he said, okay, but you know, we don't have much money. I study this. I can build 5, 6 amplifiers for the stage. And so he did. So he just went to another long gone, more or less, Norwegian hi-fi or amplifier manufacturer called Auditon. And he bought some components and he built some live stage amplifiers. He didn't care so much about them. And he called them HEGEL Audio because of his band. And 5 of these 6 amplifiers still play on the stage today. It's now 29 years later. And one of them is back in our office. But what inspired him to start what is now HEGEL was a dilemma in his amplifier design. And now I almost started something bad, because that is a 2-hour discussion on its own. But when you make amplifiers, the key component is one thing called a transistor. We will try to make this short. The key component in an amplifier is a transistor. And to cut it very short, it's difficult for you. I can do that. Oh yes, it's on wheels.
Yes.
Woohoo! That's fantastic. Does that help? Très bon. The transistor is a component in the amplifier with 3 legs. Very simple. One of the legs, would typically be the input. For example, from the source or a CD player. The signal from that goes into leg number 1. Leg number 2, very simplified, is connected to the wall or to the power supply. Leg number 3, simplified, is connected to the loudspeaker. What an amplifier or a transistor does is basically that the first leg opens a door between the power supply and the loudspeaker. And it opens it in such a way that, say, there's just for 1 volt, but just for the sake of making the example easy to understand, if 1 comes in here, it opens the door wide enough for example, 100 to pass through. That is amplification. Very, very, very simplified. If any of you are engineers, shoot me afterwards, but technically, this is correct. This is not HEGEL marketing, right? That is amplifiers. This may not be so easy to understand, but if this was the case, let's see, call this input, this out. If you had 1 in, you would get 100 out. If you had 2 in, you should get 200 out. And if you have 3 in, you should get 300 out. And so on. That would be perfect amplifier. But in the 70s and 60s, when they developed the transistors, the components, the manufacturers and developers saw that this is not at all how a transistor behaves. They call the rise curve looks like this. And it does not mean that it will play very, very low, at low levels, and very, very high. It was simply do something we call oscillate. It would spin out of control. A little bit like if somebody is on the stage and talking through the speakers and suddenly whoop, until the system goes apart. And we don't need to understand all of that. All we need to understand is that there is a basic error in how transistors work. So, here's a transistor again. How the designers like Toshiba and Motorola solved the problem was they made a white paper for how to create solid-state amplifiers, and they made certain new color. You took a sample of what came out to the speaker, and you would make a correction by sending some of this back into the beginning of the amplifier and make a correction to even out this crazy behavior. To explain it in detail takes a long time, but it's called feedback. So basically you send some of what goes out to the speakers back to the input of the amplifier to correct for this strange behavior and make a stable amplifier.